I'm Debbie and this is my story.
Story time on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, y'all, so today's story is my own. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, so boom. About 2 years ago in 2019, I lived by myself in my own apartment. At this time, I was at the end of my lease and I was actually moving to another apartment. I had to do everything by myself because I had nobody to help me, so I had to go get a U-Haul truck. This was my first time using Uber because I have my own car. But to get to U-Haul, I had to Uber over there so I could get the truck and then go from apartment to apartment. My first Uber driver bringing me to the U-Haul truck was fine. I had no issues with him and it was pretty normal and fast. So once I was done with the U-Haul truck and I was done moving, I had to return the truck to its location. And then I had to Uber back to my apartment where my car was. Now this second Uber driver, this is where the issue comes in. Y'all, it was literally crazy. My life was at stake. Like I said, I returned my U-Haul truck and I waited for my Uber driver to come pick me up. When my Uber driver came to pick me up, right from the beginning, I knew something was off about him. Always trust your instincts. He was a little weird and off, but I told myself that it's only a 10-minute drive and it will be over soon. So I sat on the back of the car and I just stayed on my phone. You know, minding my business. And then the guy just started talking to me, like I guess he was trying to have small talk. But the weird thing is I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I got footage, you guys. Listen to this. Yeah, I didn't know what he was saying, but I just thought he wanted to do small talk. So I just was like, oh, yeah, yeah, oh, ooh, ah. But then all of a sudden he went off the path of my route. I was like, excuse me, you took the wrong turn. Then he turned back and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. It gets worse. Okay, so boom, like I said, he went off the path of my route. And I said, excuse me, you made the wrong turn. Then he turned around and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. I still didn't get it and I looked confused and I was just like, just drop me off at this gas station here. And child, he locked the door. At that moment, my heart sank and I knew exactly what was going on. I was being kidnapped on my birthday. He locked all the doors and put child lock so I wouldn't be able to unlock and leave either. I was under pressure, but I knew I had to think fast and get out of this situation. Y'all, he was driving fast, but thank God he wasn't on a highway, so there was red lights. And I live in Miami, so traffic hour is real. I knew that once he stopped at a red light, that would be my only chance to get the hell out this car. So here we go. We stopped at the red light and I took his head and bashed it into his steering wheel. He didn't see it coming, so I did it pretty easy. Running out of time. Okay, so boom, like I said, he stopped at a red light and I took his head and started bashing it into the wheel. He didn't see it coming, so that's why I was able to overpower him at that moment. As I was bashing his head, I knew that his door was the only way I was able to get out because of the child lock. As I bashed his head, I unlocked the door and I literally sling my whole body to the front of the car and I was literally on top of him. Unlocked the door, opened it, and I just jumped out. He held on to one of my legs, so I ended up falling on the floor on the street. But at this point, everyone was looking and someone was coming to my rescue, so he just closed his door and locked it. And as soon as the light turned green, he bolted. I was bruised all over, like my arm, but mostly my knees. I went inside the gas station and I waited for my friend to come pick me up. Y'all, all this on my birthday ruined my whole day. But I say that to say this, be careful.
So I don't really know what to call this story time, so I'll just tell it. When I was 13, I was forced to go to this summer camp. It was a 4-week Christian sleepaway camp. We weren't allowed to have any electronics on us the entire time. During prayer and worship, the boys had one side of the room and the girls had the other. And if a girl and boy were talking for too long, a counselor would get in between them and separate them. But anyway, all the girls stayed in one big room with like 20 bunk beds. And every single night before we would go to sleep, we were forced to sit in a giant circle and do like Bible studies. And then like go around in a circle and pray. And there was this one girl that was either gay or bi, I don't really remember. But she had told the camp counselor that in confidence. I guess because, you know, like she probably grew up religious and was like struggling with that. And was maybe just not ready to accept herself yet. I have no idea. But this camp counselor, in the middle of the prayer circle, outed the girl by being like, "Dear Lord, please help cure her." And then to make things worse, she said to us, "Don't worry guys, she's gonna leave the room when you guys change." So all the girls in our cabin, which was around 20, had to sit in a giant circle and take turns reading things from the Bible and praying. And a supervisor was in there with us as well. So one of the girls had came out to the counselor in confidence, and the counselor took it upon herself to pray for her, basically saying, "Father God, please cure her, take the demons out of her," which obviously wasn't what the girl wanted, because she told the counselor that in confidence. And then the counselor decides to say, "Don't worry, everyone, she's gonna leave the room whenever you guys decide to change, so none of you feel uncomfortable," completely disregarding how uncomfortable that would make the girl feel. And I wasn't about to just let that happen, and I caused a scene. I was like, do you even notice what you're doing? You're singling her out when she told you this information about herself because she trusted you. And then you out her in front of everybody here and then treat her differently than everybody else. You're evil. That's literally not what religion should be about. And I got in trouble for standing up for her. There was this boy in my kindergarten class. We'll name him Stan. Stan was the kid who would pick his nose, eat weird lunches, and was the class clown, but like nobody laughed at anything he said because all his jokes were like poopy jokes. I don't know why I remember this. It's pretty random, but it's just one of those memories that have stuck with me throughout all these years. So this girl, we'll name her Bella. She was always trying to get everyone in trouble. She would tattletale on everyone. And I didn't have the typical kindergarten teacher. The one that's like, okay kids, we're gonna pass the ball around and say what we loved about our summer. And then we're gonna eat these cupcakes that I brought. No. My kindergarten teacher was like, why are you talking during nap time? Why are you packing our books at 2:59? We end at 3. So long story short, I was terrified of her. So anyway, the teacher told us to open our notebooks. Logan opened his to the middle of the book and not like the next clean page. And the teacher yelled at him. So I said to Bella, Logan's so stupid. Bella was like, ooh. Then she tattled on me. Story of the time my childhood was ruined for the first time. So basically the house that I lived in my entire life had a giant tree outside in the front yard. I called it my climbing tree. I would climb that tree and hug it and literally talk to it as if it was a person. This is gonna sound really corny, but every time that I got into problems with my neighbor, if you've been here for a while, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anytime I would have problems with my family, at school, anything in general, I would climb the climbing tree and I would sit on one of its branches and I would just talk to it, you know? I would be like, you're the only person here for me. And it was a tree. Now that I'm telling this story, I realize how sad it is. Then one bright sunny afternoon, I get home from school. What do I see outside? The landscapers. What do I see on the side of the road? My climbing tree! Story of the time my friend made me lie to my parents. So I was either 15 or 16, and it was one of the first time that I tried. So we did a lot of that, and then we went back to her house. I started to get really paranoid, and it felt like I was floating. And every sound that I heard felt like it was echoing. I ended up getting so scared that I texted my mom and asked her to pick me up and told her what we were doing. My friend ended up seeing my phone and started freaking out. But my parents were always laid back as long as I told them the truth. And I told her that, but she still freaked out. So she told me to call my mom and tell her that we were pulling a prank on her so that I could stay. You could tell my mom thought I was lying because she was like, okay, well, I'm still gonna come pick you up. Mind you, I was supposed to sleep over. But my friend really didn't want me to leave. So she came up with this great plan. She told her little siblings to go up to my parents' car when they got there and pretend to be laughing because they fell for the joke. And my parents are not dumb. And her siblings were not actors. So my parents end up coming like for part 2.
Extremely creepy story time on how my aunt passed away. So a little background information. About 5 years ago, my aunt had gotten pregnant. It was really weird because a few months before she got pregnant, the doctor told her that she would never be able to have kids. And her husband had been trying for years. Well, I think like 2 weeks after the baby was born, it had passed away. And I don't really know why. For some reason, my mom won't tell me. Which is weird, but anyways, after that, my aunt just felt like a lot of things weren't going the way that she wanted them to in her life. So she decided to get closer with God. Well, every Sunday night, we go to my grandparents' house for a family dinner. And while we were there, my aunt starts going on this whole rampage. She said that God's not giving her the answers that she needs, and I don't really know what she means by answers. So my grandparents kick her out because she's acting like a psycho. Well, the same night at 3 a.m. in the morning, we hear a knocking on the door. And lo and behold, it's my aunt. So my mom lets her in because she feels bad and feels like she's the only one that will actually listen to my aunt. So she makes everybody sit at the kitchen table. And she pulls out a Ouija board from her bag. So like I said, she makes us all sit down at the kitchen table and she pulls out a Ouija board. She was like, I found out how I can get some answers. I just feel like I need you guys around me for positive energy. And my family is very, very religious. Like, we don't fuck with that shit. But because my mom felt bad for her, she let her use it in our house. But my mom didn't want my sisters and I around that, so she just sent us to bed. Well, the next morning, I wake up and I ask my mom what happened with the Ouija board situation. My mom just said that it was really scary because before she thought it was like a load of bullshit. And she said that her and my dad didn't touch the Ouija board because, like I said, they were very religious and did not mess with that stuff. But apparently, it said for her not to buy a house with the numbers 2815. Well, 2 years later, my aunt got remarried, and her husband ended up having 2 kids. So they bought a new house, and no, it didn't have the numbers on it. One of their kids accidentally shattered the glass door, so they went and got a new one, and it came with those exact numbers on it. 2 days later, the house burnt down and nobody survived. Story time about the toxic boy that I almost started dating. So a little background information. Him and I both met on a set of a movie that we were in. Well, a few days into filming, he asked me out. So of course I said yes. And it was literally the most amazing first date ever. So he asked for a second date, and I said yes, of course. And the second date was terrible. He literally just tried to get in my pants the whole time. So then he asked me for a third date. And for some reason I said yes, hoping that it was not anything like the second date. And he didn't show up. So I pretty much got stood up. And then he even blocked my number. So a few months go by and I end up moving in with my best friend, about an hour away from where I was living when I met him. Well, the one night she came home and told me that he had messaged her on Instagram, which I thought was funny as hell because my best friend did not swing that way. So she pretends to flirt with him and asks him to come over. So he drives an hour to our apartment, and when he walks in, he just sees me standing in the kitchen. He immediately walked out